Shalom Aleichem and welcome to this video. Now this is a video about the issue of fleshly versus spiritual. Now in the book of Hebrews, this is the fourth video looking at the letter of the anonymous letter which is called to the Hebrews. And in this letter we see several times, 2 or 3 times, where the writer makes the contrast between something that is fleshly, i.e. the Torah, and something that is higher than that, i.e. this new way, this new religion. For example, in chapter 7, when he's trying to argue that the Messiah's priesthood has replaced the Levitical priesthood, has annulled the Levitical priesthood, he says this. He says, if it is still more abundantly clear that if another priest arises according to the likeness of Melchizedek, who has not become so according to a law of a fleshly command, but according to the power of an indissoluble life. So notice how he contrasts one command with another. He contrasts the fleshly command, which is what? That would be the command that brought in the Levitical priesthood, which we can read about in Exodus and elsewhere. So he says that was a fleshly command, but the Messiah is a priest now, not according to the fleshly command, but, as he says here, he says, it is testified, you are a priest according to the, a priest to the age according to the order of Melchizedek. For indeed, an annulment of the preceding command comes because of its weakness and unprofitableness. So do you see there? Do you see his attitude toward the Torah, basically, that brings in the Levitical priesthood? He says that is annulled because it's weak and unprofitable or useless. It perfected nobody. But now the new priesthood is different to that. And it's this attitude toward the Torah as of it being fleshly, carnal, weak, useless, limited. This is the attitude which really Christianity is built on today. Christians who do not keep Torah and argue about it use these kind of arguments when they're in debate with the likes of me and others who believe in keeping Torah. Another place where this chap talks about this fleshly versus spiritual comparison is in chapter 9. He explains, he describes the tabernacle, and then he speaks about how the high priest went once a year into the holiest of holies, and then he says that the Holy Spirit, set apart Spirit, signifying that the way of the Holy of Holies had not yet been made manifest, the first tabernacle still having been standing, which was a parable for the present time, according to which both gifts and sacrifices are offered, but as regards to conscience, not able to perfect the one serving. You see, it's that idea again of this weak and useless Torah was unable to make the one who's given the offerings perfect. It was unable to have any impact on his conscience, apparently. Okay. The only thing it was really able to make a difference to was this: only on foods and drinks and various washings and fleshly ordinances, see that again, until the time of the setting things right had been imposed. It's that idea again of of the Torah only, and the offerings in Torah only being to do with food and drink and washings and fleshly carnal ordinances, unable to cleanse the conscience. This guy claimed it's all these things were unable to, even if a man or a woman should sincerely go up and offer a guilt offering or a sin offering or any kind of offering, their conscience apparently would remain untouched, because all these offerings were only able to deal with food and drink and this, that and the other. And then he says down here, he says the blood of bulls and goats and ashes of a heifer sprinkling those having been defiled sanctifies to the purity of the flesh. Again, there we go. It's only to do with the outward, the flesh. someone was unclean because they touched the dead body, then they could go and offer the offering or whatever, and then they would be clean, but only with regard to their physical flesh. So you see, this idea runs, at the heart of the teaching in this letter in the Hebrews. The idea again that the Torah, fleshly, carnal, physical, versus the new way, which is spiritual, higher, can deal with the conscience, etc. And this is really a key foundation of Christian thinking. This is the attitude that Christians have toward the Torah. When you tell them, for example, that you keep the food laws, they say, look, the food laws were only temporary. They're only pointing to something spiritual, something better, something higher. Now we have something better, something higher. All those things have been fulfilled and done away with. They were only teaching and pointing forward to something spiritual. We see this teaching in Paul's writings very often. For example, he says in Colossians chapter 2, verse 16, "Do not let anyone judge you in eating or in drinking or in part of a feast or a new moon or Sabbaths, which are a shadow of coming things, but the body is of Christ, of Messiah." Again, it's this idea, the same idea. All these food, drink, feasts and, whatnot, they were only shadows pointing to Messiah. And then he says later on down here, "If then you died with Messiah from the elements of the world, why are you under its decrees, as living in the world? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch." Get, all these fleshly commands, which things are all for corruption in the using according to the injunctions and teachings of men, which things indeed appear to be a matter of having wisdom in self-imposed worship and humility and severity in abuse of the body, but are not of any value with regard to the gratification of the flesh. So Paul's elaborating here, and his belief was that, look, all these commands to do with food and drink and this, that, and the other, look, these are insignificant things. They're not important now. Now that we have the substance, which is Messiah, all these things, these shadows, are not important. So don't let anyone tell you that you're supposed to be, not eating pork and these things. Because why? These are all carnal, fleshly commandments which have been, superseded by the better, the spiritual, the true thing, which is Messiah. So basically, when I see Christians and Torah keepers arguing, I see that the real problem isn't with the Christians, really, and it isn't with the Torah keepers. The real problem is with the text that they are arguing over. The Torah keepers, they want to keep Torah. You want to keep Torah, but you've got Paul and you've got Hebrews, which are weighing you down, and you're constantly having to try to explain your way out of this very straightforward, anti-Torah teaching that we find in Hebrews, and most especially this concept of of the Torah being fleshly and only to do with food and drink and this, that, and the other. You've got to try and deal with that. Whereas the Christians, on the other hand, they read these texts and they understand them properly, and they say, look, this is what we believe. Why are you still keeping the feasts? Why are you still keeping the commandments? When Hebrews and Paul make it very clear that these things have been superseded and done away with.